everyone to another wonderful Classicopia concert here at First Congregational Church. We are always thankful to Brian, Reverend Silver, all the folks here for making such a warm and welcoming environment, and we hope you will check out all the wonderful concerts they do now. They have become really a community mecca for great music, so we're excited to be a part of that process. And tonight we are introducing for the first time into our Classicopia audiences a fantastic clarinetist all the way from Baltimore. Welcome, Mr. Seth Keibel. Seth is multi-talented on lots of different music, jazz and klezmer and all sorts of things in the Baltimore, D.C. area. He is performing every day of the week, I think, and we are fortunate that we were able to sort of grab him to come up here and do these concerts for you. We're really excited about this program. It's called Jewish Jazz, and it's a program that's going to tell a fascinating story in our history of sort of this convergence of two different musics in New York City at the beginning of the 20th century. First, it was the klezmer music that was coming out of Eastern Europe as many of the Jews were fleeing the pogroms, and about 1/3 of the Jewish population in that area ended up coming to the United States between 1880 and 1920. It was a huge influx. And then, of course, in 1924, there was a big anti-immigration act, and that's similar to what we're dealing with now. But this was all because of a lot of the movement of these people that were coming in, these Jewish folk who came in. Many ended up in New York, and they brought with them this klezmer music, which I will talk about in a second. At the same time, there was the Great Migration of African Americans from the South trying to find better economic opportunities to get away from lynchings and other segregation issues, and many of them ended up in New York bringing their ragtime and blues. And there was a convergence of these musics. There is a sort of similarity of scales to these. Certainly they're both very oppressed people that had music as a way to sort of get through some difficult times. And it's not surprising that there was sort of a way that they kind of found a synthesis and ultimately in some ways led us to American jazz and early jazz. And many of the early clarinetists especially, Benny Goodman and Artie Shaw, these jazz clarinetists, were Jews who had learned their trade in synagogues, sort of had their first lessons. So we're going to sort of see this mishmash coming together. We'll begin with a piece called the Jewish Suite. Now, there are music and Jews go way back. In fact, you can actually see it in the Bible. Musicians are actually mentioned as one of the three fundamental professions, the others being herding and tool forging. So we were up there with the important things. And musicians were really viewed as a necessity in everyday life. And so we jump ahead now to 18th century, 19th century Russia area. And the Jews living in these areas, well, depending on where they were, they would sort of mix in with the people around them. If they were in Romania or Poland, they would sort of imbue the music that they heard there and bring it in. So klezmer music takes from a lot of different sources, which is why it's not surprising that when they came and heard the African American music, klezmer sort of enveloped that as well. And klezmer really just means, clay means vessel, and zmer means song. And so klezmer just refers to a vessel of song, which is what these musicians were. They were the vessels to produce this song. Now, in the beginning, the clarinet was not a major instrument in klezmer music. It was a much quieter in music. Violin was sort of the main instrument used, which is why the Fiddler on the Roof you will play later. And it was meant to be softer music because it was illegal to be playing really loud music in many of these areas. And then at some point there was a lessening of some of the laws. Jews were actually allowed to enter the Russian army. They were sort of conscripted, and many of them joined the military bands while they were there and discovered the clarinet. They went home with this new instrument, which made a lot more sound, and which also had this very human element. When you hear the clarinet, the way Seth plays it, it's almost as if it's emanating right from the soul. It is the vessel of the song. And so these were a little louder instrument. It begins to replace the violin. Now, you didn't see the piano in any early klezmer because it was still fairly illegal to do this music. And if the Russian authorities came, you had to be able to run fast. And it's hard to run with a piano on your back. So there were sometimes accordions with these groups, but the piano doesn't enter into the sort of music until New York when it was much safer. The music is sort of hard to describe. It's sort of this uncontrollable joy fused with irrevocable pathos. It's sort of the tears of the clown as the Jews sort of lived through these difficult times. I always say, you know klezmer music when you hear it, much like was said about pornography. You know when you see it.
Dude, we're in a church.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I can't say that. This music just, it has a feel about it, and we're going to just let you sort of warm yourself with this first piece. Is actually a work, contemporary work by Michele Magnani. He's an Italian clarinetist, and he wrote this piece in 2008. And there are 4 short movements that really sort of have all the Jewish elements in it. Most of the tunes that he takes are stolen from various Jewish songs. One, the second movement, Shalom Chavarim, a very famous song sung often at summer music, at summer camps, Jewish summer camps, a kind of peace song. And the last movement, Good Yom Tovai, also there. And there's also little snippets of other things, but it really gives the flavor of this great music. So here is the Jewish Suite by Michele Magnani.